On a normal school day in Dublin, a 13-year-old boy walked home for lunch. He knew the route, his family knew the route, his school knew the route. It was short, familiar, and ordinary. Philip Cairns left school, walked to his home at lunch, changed his book for his afternoon classes, picked up his school bag, and left again. He was supposed to walk back to school, but Philip never arrived. No confirmed sighting, no emergency call, no body, no clear crime scene. Just a boy leaving his house in the early afternoon and disappearing in the middle of a quiet Dublin suburb. For days, his family waited for the one thing every family waits for in missing child case. A knock on the door, a phone call, a mistake, some proof that Philip had simply gone somewhere and would come home. But 6 days later, something appeared in Laneway near his school. His school bag. And that school bag would become one of the most important and the most confusing clues in one of Ireland's most haunted missing child cases. Because if Philip vanished on the road back to school, the first question was simple. How did his bag come back when Philip never did? Philip Cairns was born in September of 1973. In October of 1986, he was 13-year-old, newly attending school and living with his family in Dublin. The official missing person record described him as 5'2", with short black hair when he was last seen. He was wearing his school uniform, grey trouser, a grey shorts, a school pullover, and a grey jacket with black shoulder corners. These details matter because Philip's disappearance was not reported as a runaway case with weeks of warning signs. It was not a late night disappearance. It was not a child vanishing from far from home. It happened in daylight between home and school on a route that should have taken minutes. Philip's mother, Alice Cairns, later described him as a quiet boy with a good sense of humor, someone who played football and had recently made his confirmation. His family remembered him not as a troubled child, but as a normal young boy at the beginning of secondary school. And that is what made the case so frightening. Nothing about the day suggested Philip was stepping into danger. Nothing about his routine looked unusual until he left the house for the second time, and from that moment the timeline became the case. On the afternoon of October 23, 1986, Philip left school around 10 minutes before 1 in the afternoon and walked home. Irish police later said the walk usually took less than 15 minutes. Philip arrived home around 1 o'clock. His grandmother had lunch waiting for him. After eating, he had a few minutes before he needed to go back, so he did homework and changed the books in his school bag for his afternoon classes. At around 1:30, Philip left the house. That was the last confirmed moment his family saw him. He was expected back at school, but he did not arrive. At first, the absence did not instantly look like national mystery. In many families, the first thought is delay, confusion, a friend's house, a missed message, a child being late. But as the hours passed, the normal explanations begin to fall apart. Philip had not returned to school. He had not gone to France. He had not come home. By the evening, concern became alarm. His mother later recalled going to his friend's house and being told he had not come home with them. That was the first real break in the ordinary world. The route was short, the time window was narrow, and somewhere between his front door and his school, Philip Cairns had vanished. For 6 days, there was no trace of Philip. Then his school bag was found. It was discovered in Laneway near the school. Laneway linking Anne Devlin Road and Anne Devlin Drive. That discovery should have been a breakthrough. Instead, it created more questions. The official Guards appeal states that some of Philip's books were missing from the bag. Reporting from the news later stated that the missing books included a geography book and 2 religion books. The bag itself became even stranger because it was reportedly found in a visible place, in a laneway with foot traffic. Philip's younger brother later recalled that it had been raining and that the bag was found in a clear sight. According to reporting at the time, the bag was described as apparently dry, despite being found in a wet laneway. If that detail is accurate, it matters because it suggests the bag may not have been lying there from the day Philip disappeared. It may have been placed there later. That does not prove who placed it there. It does not prove why, but it changed the meaning of the clue. The bag was not just something Philip dropped. It became a possible message from the missing timeline. And for investigators, the question was no longer only where Philip went. It was who had access to his school bag after the disappearance. After Philip disappeared, the search became one of the most remembered missing child investigations in Ireland. Guards searched for him. The public responded. Sightings were reported. The case reached television appeal. And over time, hundreds of reported sightings had to be checked. But every possible sighting led back to the same problem. Philip has not been found. No confirmed witness could place him safely after he left home. No physical evidence explained where he went. No suspect was charged. The school bag remained central because it was the one physical object that came back. Years passed. Appeals continued. The family kept asking for information. Investigators kept returning to the same narrow window, the walk from the house to the school. In 2011, an early public appeal led several people to come forward. By 2016, investigators said a number of lines of inquiry had opened. Irish police specifically appealed for people who had been young at the time of Philip's disappearance. The wording was important. They believe there may have been people who knew something about the school bag, but who had not come forward when they were children. And now, decades later, those people may finally be able to speak. That appeal shifted the case toward a disturbing possibility. Someone young may have known something. Someone young may have been afraid. And the school bag may have been moved by someone who did not act alone. The Philip case is not strange because there are too many facts. It is strange because there are too few. A boy leaves home in daylight, a short walk, a familiar suburb, no confirmed sighting after he leaves. Then the bag appears 6 days later near the school. Some books are missing. The bag may have been placed in the laneway after the disappearance, and investigators later appealed to people who may have been children at the time. Those details point to a case where the missing object may be more revealing than the missing person. The school bag raises several questions. If Philip was taken suddenly, why was the bag not found with him? If the bag was kept for days, where was it kept? If someone placed it in the laneway, why choose a location near the school? And if children were involved in placing it there, as reports said Irish police believe, who told them to do it? These questions do not prove a single theory, but they show why the case stayed active for so long. The evidence did not close the mystery. It opened new doors. And one of those doors led decades later to a convicted child abuser named Eamon Cooke. In 2016, the case took a major turn. A woman came forward with information that linked Philip's disappearance to Eamon Cooke, a former pirate radio operator in Dublin and a convicted child abuser. Cooke had operated Radio Dublin. At the time the new information surfaced, He was serving a 10-year sentence for repeatedly abusing two girls between 1974 and 1978. According to reporting, a woman who had been a child at the time of Philip's disappearance gave information suggesting Cooke may have been involved. Guards questioned Cooke while he was terminally ill in Dublin hospice. Reports stated that Cooke was thought to have confirmed parts of the woman's account, but did not say where Philip was buried. This is where the warden must be careful. Cooke was never convicted in Philip's case. He was not charged with Philip's disappearance, and after DNA testing, RTE reported that detectives had not been able to forensically connect Cooke to Philip, though he had not been ruled out as a suspect. That leaves the Cooke lead in a difficult place. It was serious enough for investigators to examine, it was serious enough to bring the school back into focus, but it did not produce the one thing that the case needed most: proof. And without proof, Philip's disappearance remained unsolved. The confirmed evidence began with the timeline. Philip left home at around 1:30 in the afternoon to return to school. He never arrived. 6 days later, his school bag was found in a laneway near the school. Some books were missing. Years later, investigators renewed appeals, especially around the bag and around people who may have been young at the time. The strongest confirmed clue is the school bag, not because it solves the case, because it shows that something happened after Philip disappeared. One possible theory is that Philip encountered someone during the short walk back to school, someone who either knew the area or knew enough about Philip's route to act quickly. This theory fits the narrow timeline. It fits the fact that Philip's disappearance close to home. It also fits the later focus on the school bag, because if the bag was placed in the laneway after the disappearance, then someone had control of at least one item belonging to him. But the problem with this theory is the missing evidence. There is no confirmed public proof showing exactly where Philip was intercepted. There is no confirmed public proof showing who placed the bag in the laneway. There is no confirmed forensic link publicly reported tying Cooke to the bag. There is no confirmed location for Philip. So the theory can only go so far. It explains why the bag mattered. It explains why investigators kept asking about it. But it does not prove who took Philip, where he was taken, or what happened after he left the school. For this theory to become stronger, investigators would need a verified witness account, a forensic result, a confession supported by evidence, or the discovery of Philip's remains. Without that, the case remained trapped between suspicion and proof. Philip Cairns has never been located. No one has been convicted of causing his disappearance. No final court outcome has answered the question for his family. The Gardee's missing person appeal remains public, and Irish police have continued to ask for information from anyone who knows what happened, especially anyone with knowledge about the school bag. The family lived with the case for decades. Philip's father died in 2014. His mother, Alice Cairns, died in 2025, nearly 4 decades after her son vanished. She had spent much of her life waiting for answers that never come. In later years, family members continue to speak publicly about waiting to bring Philip home. That is the cruelest part of this case. It's not only unsolved, it is unfinished, because in a missing child case, the absence itself becomes evidence of what a family has been denied: a burial, a final explanation, a person held responsible, and one clear answer to the question that began on a Thursday afternoon in 1986: what happened on the road back to school? The disappearance of Philip is remembered because it took something ordinary and made it frightening. A schoolboy walking home for lunch, a short journey back, a familiar road, a family waiting for him to return, and then nothing. The case did not leave behind a clear crime scene. It left behind the roots, a time window, and a school bag. The school bag is still the symbol of the mystery. It came back into the world, then Philip did not. It carried missing books, unanswered question, and the possibility that someone knew more than they ever said. Decades later, the official appeal is still built around the same hope, that someone who was silent then may be able to speak now. Someone who was young, someone who was scared, someone who heard something, saw something, carried something, or was told to forget something. Because the final question is not only who took Philip, it is who still knows how his school bag ended up in that laneway. And after all these years, that answer may be the closest path left to bringing Philip home.